Our person tonight has been on both sides, and he'll come up and talk about that. But Jeff, why don't you come up? Is the spouse here? Is she coming up? Are you participating with us tonight? So it's amazing. Sometimes I come here, and it usually happens more on the single-family side than it does on the multifamily side, but we'll get a couple up here. And the guy will start the conversation, and then the wife takes over. So we'll see how this goes tonight.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you. I didn't know you played drums.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we met.
Is it right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go, rocket.
I was a drummer 20 years ago.
So I didn't say this, but I was actually invited to the Guns N' Roses concert down there by somebody that I happened to meet, friend of a friend, also an investor in one of my deals. And they have some other businesses in Mexico, and they might have a lot of money. So they actually sponsored the tour in Mexico for Guns N' Roses. And I got the VIP treatment. The only thing that didn't happen is I didn't get to go backstage and meet the band. And I was told I was going to be able to do that. So I'll go back again the next time, and we'll see if we can do better. All right, on to what we're here for.
Yeah, so we met, like I just said, I was a drummer in a rock band back in 2004 when I started that. Met her in 2006 through the guitar player back in the crazy days. We dated for 10 years and finally got married in 2016, and that was my fault for taking so long.
That must have been it's a drummer thing, because it took me 7 years.
Yeah.
It would have settled down.
Rock music, you know. So we've been together since then. And then we founded Bare Necessity Spawn Boutiques in 2011. And she does all that hard work these days. She's got 32 employees, and
Wow.
she stays very busy.
All right.
Superwoman.
About around that time, I got into business, helped her out where I could, and then kind of got into the financial books, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
You play the game over
The cash
and
flow
over.
game, yeah, I did. And kind of at the end of that book, they talk about finding a mentor, and I didn't like what they were offering at the time, so I kind of Googled real estate mentor, happened to find Lifestyles based out of Houston, which was really cool, and then joined and started with single family. We did 2 deals back in 2012, and then started building that up. We got up to 8 or 9, I think, a couple flips and some rentals.
Don't say the F word.
And I'll elaborate on that. Flips are very
4-letter
risky.
F
I
word.
don't, it's an advanced thing to do. I don't recommend people start with that at all, especially now. And then kind of started finding my own deals and sourcing them. So I had a lot of wholesaler connections, and I had a lot of free time. So I said, hey, Jeff Smith, do you need any realtors? Because I've got a lot of deals I could help people find and source. So I started doing that in 2020, right when the pandemic started, and helped a lot of members acquire a lot of
You
deals.
came in as
So
a
he used to be a
single-family agent.
Lifestyles agent here. He found lots of deals for members, like you saw earlier. So
Yeah, I think I did
help people out that way.
85 last year.
85 last year.
Yeah. So
Is that pretty good for one realtor? Give him a hand. Thanks, Jeff.
thank you. And then I always wanted to get into multifamily, so I finally did that last year. Found a 15-unit off-market property with Diane O'Brien, who's a realtor here as well. Initially didn't like the numbers, but we didn't know much about it. Knew where it was, Spring Branch, great location, 15 units. Didn't know the unit size, unit mix, and the numbers weren't looking great, but I'm like, hey, let's go look at it. Who cares? And I encourage everybody to do that.
At nighttime.
You want to see what it's really like at nighttime, right? I just want to say, a lot of times you get the information from a broker or an agent, and it's not all there. And you can't base your decisions on what you're given. Go look at the property, because when we got there, we realized that every unit was 1,200 square feet or larger.
Wow.
So,
Nice.
and
Wow.
they all, a lot of them had washer dryer connections that were covered up.
So it was much better than what you thought.
Exactly. So when I got back home and reran the numbers and used the rental comps nearby to see what those could be renting for, the numbers got a lot better.
Right.
So we pulled the trigger on that pretty quick. I took over. I'd done single family for several years as a landlord, so that was, not new, but multifamily is a little different. So I ended up doing everything, even though I didn't want to. So learned the hard way, overseeing maintenance, dealing with the tenants there. I remember one of them, I knocked on the door. I said, "Where's so-and-so on the lease?" "Oh, he's in jail." And there's 3 people living there. I said, "Well, who are y'all?" I said, "Well, that's his brother." I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna give you till Monday to get out. I'm calling the police." And they were gone. So, I mean, the whole property was mismanaged. It was a zoo. But so we slowly went in each unit, renovated, added washer and dryer connections, did vinyl plank flooring, new paint.
And folks, I know this sounds scary if you're new. Like, I don't want to do all this stuff. There's something I'm going to teach you this weekend called economies of scale. When you buy a very small property, who's the manager? You is. So this weekend, most of our deals are larger where you don't have to do this stuff. You have people. So he was hands-on learning on this one.
And single family, I did from my cell phone on the couch.
Yeah.
Literally sitting on the couch, I could manage my whole portfolio with a phone. Multifamily, not the case. But you need to go through it to learn.
Yeah.
You really learn a lot doing these small deals.
So let's take a step back.
Yeah.
Did we cover all of this? Why you join Lifestyles? You kind of covered all that.
Yeah, I did a
already.
little research on it, and I wanted to learn the correct way. And once I got in, I did understand the way you think you're supposed to do it is wrong. It's counterintuitive. You learn pretty quick the right way to do it, and that's a big difference. So.
All right. So now the basics on the property. You kind of covered some of this. We got 15 units built in '66, but that's when Spring Branch was really rocking.
Yeah.
So you bought this in July of '21.
Right.
So we're here just in November of '22, and this thing's already gone. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, so
So
folks.
we sold it.
Yeah.
He flipped it.
He bought us an IRO.
Yeah.
Don't say
Correct.
the F word. It's over a year.
Look, so what I want to point out here is when you become a member, there are different kinds of deals here. In this case, he did this as an independent owner, but if you're going to be a passive, it's important that you talk to a lot of people who are leads and syndicating deals out there, because we have different types of properties and different types of deals. There are some deals out there that you're going to go in, maybe they're a deep, deep value play. And when I say value play, I mean it's got potholes that are going to swallow your car when you pull into the parking lot, right? It looks like junk. We're going to have some before and after pictures that we're going to look at this. This one is kind of giving you the wrong impression because this is an after picture here.
That's not the way it looks.
Yeah, what he went through. But you're looking for something that you're going to put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money into. You're going to raise the rents, we're going to create value, and then we're either going to sell it or we're going to refinance all our money out of it and use that money to go on to the next deal. Other deals might be longer term plays, and sometimes we call these yield plays. They're going to send a check potentially every 3 months from the get-go. Okay, there may be a little bit of a delay while you do some rehab, but 6 months out, they're starting to send you checks, and we might be in this thing for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So you got to understand what your goals in life are. We're all at different places, and get with somebody, talk to different people who are doing deals, and make sure you're in line with what they're going to do on that next deal. Because I've had both types in my portfolio, and it's going to be true of people who do multiple deals.
Also, really quick on this, you see that big number of $500,000. A lot of you in the room don't have $500,000. Yeah. They were blessed in life. He had the money to buy this by himself.
She had the money in her company.
Right. The point is this can be broken into smaller numbers. When other deals we do, this is an IRO, that means he bought it by himself. There's other deals where people get together and buy a deal like this. The minimum investment in those deals is usually $25K. How many folks in the room can come up with $25K? So it doesn't matter if it's $25K, $500,000, or $100K, it's relative to the amount of money you have to invest. If it makes 100% return, if you put in $25K, you get your $25K back, plus the next $25K, that's 100%. So it doesn't matter if it's $500,000, 25, or 100K, 100% return is 100% return. Everybody follow me? So you don't have to have millions of dollars to do this. I want to make sure everybody knows that. This case, they bought it by themselves for just them and their family. Okay?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So some of the basics, in addition to the cash out of pocket, they had a loan on this. They put 25% down, had 20-year amortization, and what looks like a phenomenal 4% rate by today's standards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sure
I wish I could
does.
redo that today.
Right.
And you went in on 15 units, you plan to spend $150,000, so $10,000 a door.
Correct. And we should have done more.
It's,
But
it worked
we did
out.
well. It worked out.
Let's talk about what happened. So you got in there and you started operating it. These are monthly numbers that we have broken down here.
Mm-hmm. These are the average numbers.
So $14,000, almost $1,000 a month in rent per unit.
Right. We did get up to 19, but this is an average of the 12 months we did have it.
Okay. We had some expenses, monthly cash flow, $4,300. Not bad, huh?
We'd be okay with 4,300 tax-free. That's almost 50K a year. Give me a hand. That's not bad.
Yeah. Net operating income, I don't want to get bogged down in this. Come this weekend, he'll go through the terms, he'll explain all this, but basically what that means is after income and expenses, they had $7,600. They had a mortgage to pay. After they paid the mortgage, they had $4,300 left over.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
What that equates to is about a 10% return on that $500,000 that they put in. So take $4,200, $4,300, multiply it by 12, about 50 grand, 10% of $500,000. So they had good cash flow, double
Yeah.
digits.
Yeah.
Okay? And they created a little bit of value. So he's already got in there, this is a little different than what we normally have, that he has distributed $1,150,000. The reason is because this guy didn't hold on to this thing for 10 years. He's already out of it. He just bought it July of last year.
Yep.
So he's already given himself back on the $500,000, more than 100% return.
Who'd be okay with that?
Yeah.
Take whatever you have right now in your 401k, your IRA, TSP, add it all together, and double it 1 year. Is that not life-changing? Give me a hand. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. All right. So now let's look at some before and afters.
So this was, it was yellow. That was the sign. And I love that. You know, I've been doing single family for years, and you see this kind of stuff. You're like, and when you get a multifamily, you see the financial statements. And when you see a bad financial statement or sloppy, I get excited. Because I know bad looking property, bad financial statements, there's value to be had somewhere for sure.
So I have mentored on a lot of different deals in 5 years, and what he's saying is pretty true. It's arduous. However, when I have somebody come to me with the financial statement on the back of a napkin, there's something to be done there.
Typically
There's some
opportunity.
upside.
So some guys get excited with pretty girls. He gets excited with sloppy numbers.
It's true.
He brings a spreadsheet to the bed.
So
Interior before and after?
yeah, most of them were carpeted. So we did vinyl plank, click and lock flooring, which is
But similar to the outside, the interior was basically yellow, brown carpet, and you went to Restoration Hardware gray on everything.
yeah, great. Yep. We added the washer dryers in the kitchens because it did, we don't have pictures of it, but it did have a pretty crappy laundry room. It's kind of outdoors.
Like a pantry.
Yeah, well, the one next to the pool that we filled in. It
And
was
you were
bad.
able to do this in every unit?
To make the room for it, yeah.
We did it in all but 6.
Okay. And I will tell you that when you can go in and add this, I mean, I have units that already have the connections. I just supply the washer dryer instead of them having to go out and get their own, and I get $50 a month. They cost me about $900 for a cheap set.
Yeah.
$1,500 for an expensive set like a stack like you have here.
Right.
But $600 a year, $50 a month in return on $1,500, it's 40% or something like
Cash
that.
on cash is really
And
good.
once you understand cap rate, that is a huge number. Add a zero, basically, or more.
Right.
So this is huge. Potentially the two biggest things you can add right now, dog parks, because pet owners will pay, and washer dryers.
Yeah. Bingo.
So, all right, back to the numbers. So here's year one. In this case, we have annualized these numbers instead of monthly like you saw before. But he was collecting $173,000 a year, had expenses of $81,500, net operating income $91,000, $40,000 mortgage. When it's all said and done, $50 grand a year on his $500,000 investment, 10% cash on cash return.
Now, I ask you guys, that's a great rate of return. Who agrees? The hardest rule for me to teach people, and they don't understand this when they're new, is giving up what you have, making all this money for what you can become. Who knows what rule number 3 is? Anybody? You can't get rich slow. Because people are probably saying, well, if you're making all this money, you did all this work, why'd you give it up? Want to go what?
Why did I give this property up?
Yeah, why'd you give it up?
Well, for me personally, 15 units is too small for what I like.
Exactly.
Right? We're business-minded. I like having people, employees, staff that can to handle other things so I can work on growing my business. 15 units, you're still dealing with tenants yourself.
Right.
I've been doing that for 10 years. I was tired of it. I wanted to grow my lead investor business. So the more cash I have for that, people ask why I didn't refi and instead of versus selling. Well, the more capital I have, the more I can take to my lead business, and the more I can leverage that, and that's kind of advanced. But
Well, yeah, so one of the things that you'll get into when you become a member, if you want to be a lead or you want to buy your own deal, we will sit down, look at your finances and say, look, here's what you qualify for. Maybe you can buy 15 units, maybe you can buy 100 units. We got people at all levels here. So we'll help qualify you for that. He did his 15-unit deal. Now we're going to get into the next numbers, and he's rolling all of this into the next deal, or he's going to split it and buy 2 deals.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
So he took the NOI, 91,000 from the previous slide. We apply something to that called a cap rate. He'll explain all of that this weekend, and you come up with the market value. This is what he actually sold the property for, $2.4 million
To another member.
to another member.
Who likes that? Send it to the next guy. He can do a little bit more meat on the bone for that guy.
So get what he said there. There was somebody else that said, hey, that 10% looks pretty good. I don't mind doing the work. It could be fun. They're in a different place. Somebody else bought this from him who's also a member, and they're going to carry it forward.
And I was nice enough to write out a whole game plan on what I would
Do
do
it, yep.
if I was them, on how to take it even further. So,
See, that's one thing he just said that most people wouldn't understand. Lifestyles does a mastermind every month of all these lead investors that get together, which Scott headed up right before this case study. But I want you to think about that. If this guy owns an Exxon and that guy owns Sunoco, do they share their information? Yet we're here at Lifestyles, we open our books up to each other. Who thinks that's powerful? And that's why we all grow together. It's really huge
Not like
thing.
that in the spa business.
Yeah, it's not that in the spa business. You stab each other or what? Yeah, okay.
it's cutthroat.
I was telling somebody before I came up here, I was actually mentoring somebody. They were trying to find their first lead deal. And I was like, you know, I don't like this. And I had just happened, I had an 80-unit deal, and there were only 3 of us in it. And we had just had a meeting and said, you know, maybe it's time to unload this one. I said, you know what? I think I have a deal that I like more than I like the deal you just brought me to analyze. Take this to another mentor and have them look at it and tell me if you want to buy it. And she did buy it. She was at the meeting earlier today, and she's taken it to the next level from where I left off. So
Yeah, there's a lot of exchanging going on with members. You know, it's
Yeah, if you notice, he said, hey, I didn't fix up all the laundries or whatever. That's the meat on the bone for the next guy, and that guy will double his money too.
Right.
And you're like, well, why didn't you just double your money and do them, finish it out? He goes, I don't want to waste my time on this little one for another year or two. When I can go to one twice as big, the bigger we go, the less work it is. He wants to get to 50 units where now he has part-time staff, or 100 units.
So let's talk about that. He sold it for 2.4. He paid off his mortgage of $1.1 million. He had almost $1.1 million left over that he returned. He says investor capital, but it's actually him. There's no investor in here.
well, it's some family.
Yeah. Oh, there was? Okay. So it was 130% cash return and equity capture in 14 months?
Under 14 months.
Yeah.
Give him a hand. It's huge. Hey,
still
I don't
have-
know if you know this. There's a very technical term in the industry for that. When you can make over 100% in return in 1 year, do you know what it is?
Peeing your pants exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. So typically, if you want to come back next month, we've got multi-year projects, and year 1, year 2, year 3 would be filled in here, and we'd be taking this a little deeper. But the Astros are playing. There's something called the World Series going on, and we're trying to cut things
We
short
got to
here.
try to get it done by 8.
Yeah. So,
It's tied 1-1.
All right.
Stop worrying about the stupid game.
right.
This guy just made 100% return, turned $500,000 to $1 million. You worry about stupid. How many people do you know on that team? But you know 2 people up here that just doubled their money.
Yeah, my
both
friends are
good.
like, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, I'm doing business.
people in Philadelphia were curious what the score was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so you've talked about a lot of this, but let's run down how'd you do what you did.
So the first thing I do in my properties, and I just did it on my other lead property, is I get rid of all the bad tenants.
This is fun for him. He loves it.
Residents.
Loves
Residents. Well, I call them residents.
Now, the new ones.
Well,
the good ones.
some of them were just occupants. They weren't even on the lease,
They
apparently.
were trespassing.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to turn these properties around, and my philosophy is get rid of as many bad residents as possible, because the new ones don't want to live around the problem.
Let's just call them politically correct, financially disenfranchised individuals that voted for Bernie Sanders.
There you go. Yeah, so we did that first. There was a pool, and this is a 15-unit property, and we filled it in. And people are like, why would you do that? I'm like, Well, a few reasons. It's very counterintuitive. One, it's expensive. It was going to cost 20 grand to fix it up, bring it up to code. The pool permit people in Houston are relentless, and they come around and they can cite you for anything at all times. So that's just going to be another expense we don't need. And three, the pools don't really add any value. People aren't going to pay more rent if you have a pool for a property like this.
On older 15-unit properties,
Just too
I mean,
small.
look,
If it's 50
might-
or 100, yeah.
yeah, I might pay for one in my backyard at my one house, but it doesn't really make sense when you got to get $50 or $100 of rent out of somebody for that pool. It just
then the
doesn't get used that much. And in a lot of situations, actually one of my places up in Cincinnati, I have some stuff up there. We took the pool out, we put in a pergola and a grilling area, and it gets more use than the pool did.
Yep.
A social area.
Yeah, we put in 2 grills and some seating,
Yeah.
courtyard. Yeah. And the kids could run around and play and not
Yeah.
fall into a pool. And the liability of it, of course, is not worth it. When you have an office staff, it makes sense. They can be there to monitor, but we didn't. Painted the exterior as you saw, new signs. And then on the interiors, we did all new vinyl flooring, brushed nickel plumbing and lighting fixtures, which is very common in the single-family world that we did, so we knew that. Appliances, washer, dryers in the units. Then I went around and conducted more market surveys to understand where we could be because we had such a big floor plan. They're all 1,200 square feet townhomes, 2 beds, 1.5 baths at least. So we realized how much more rent we could get, so we did that. Started charging for reserved parking because parking was very limited in this place, and people were more than willing to pay for reserved parking.
And you'll hear the power of this. There's 28 different ways we can do this to add different income. The power of this weekend, once you understand the math behind it, you go, that's what he was talking about. So
Yep.
remember this moment if you're new.
Yep. So you always try to find ways to get more fees and income.
Other income is huge.
Yeah. And then we managed our expenses. I mean, we just kept an eye on utilities and things we could control, and that's really it. Just watch your NOI, which you'll learn about this weekend as well.
All right.
And how has it changed our life? Yeah, learning how to correctly, and I emphasize correctly, invest in real estate, because the first 2 deals I did when I first started did wrong. Dell even told me not to do them. Still did them.
Does anybody know what it says in the back of the book? I will not do what Dave or Dell said. Just so you know.
So learning to do it correctly makes a big difference, and it changes the game. So that's why we did. That's why we joined.
Seems so simple.
It does, in retrospect.
All right, so what's next for you?
So I'm currently a lead. I have a 68 unit next to his, actually, in Oak Forest. So I'm managing that. We're trying to get that stabilized, and hopefully we can refinance or sell at the end of next year. That's kind of the goal. We'll see.
So let's tie that back to something he said earlier. You get to 68 units, all of a sudden you can afford to spread the payroll of a manager and a maintenance man to be on site all the time.
Yep.
So he doesn't have to do it anymore.
So much easier.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of
have to
getting rid
hear
of the
it
15
anymore.
units, even though it was producing double-digit returns.
So you see, it's the opposite what you think when you're new. When you're thinking, you're like, well, it's easier to run a 15 unit. A 50 unit will be hard. No, it's actually easier to go to a 100 unit to a 200 unit. But when you're new, you're scared. You have to learn to add a zero. That's one of the biggest fear things we have to get people over.
So then the next thing that he probably already knows, but if not, he will learn, is then what happens when somebody decides to get sick, a manager or a technician, or they, God forbid, want a day off, vacation. Are you kidding me? You're going to be gone for a week? That's why you move up to 150 units, 200 units, because now I got 2 of everything. So
Right.
that's fine. You take a week off, I still got this guy or girl over here.
Exactly. And we just had the flu go through our
Or the
staff,
flu.
so they were
Yeah.
out for a week, and I was out, so it was not a good timing.
All had the flu.
Y'all had the flu?
She and I had the flu at the same time.
Wow.
My leasing manager had the flu.
I brought
have
it back
kids?
from Mexico.
No.
Okay, so they don't have to
Yeah, I
worry
have
about
32 grown women.
32. Oh, I get it. The work, yeah.
Employees,
Spa.
yeah.
That's definitely kids. Yeah.
But what he said, yeah, so that's my next goal is hopefully find some properties in Houston, at least 100 units that I can build a team with that I can hire managers to oversee multiple properties, not just me. And then eventually I think I'd like to shift more into a passive role after 5 to 10 years. We'll see how I feel and pursue some passion businesses. So my background is restaurants, and people are, I'm crazy for wanting to go in the restaurant business, but
That's definitely
I would say
crazy.
that.
yes. But
Anybody restaurant people in the room? Yeah, just talk to them first.
I worked in
Oh,
restaurants.
you know what it's like. Oh, you
My
like 20
background.
hours a day. Okay.
My background's restaurants, and I want to build up the real estate enough to where I don't have to worry about the income from the restaurants.
Subsidize the restaurants.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yes. Passion businesses. So
I love seeing the shift more into a passive role. So I've been around here now for 15 years, and I'm finding myself, I turned 56 at the end of September, and I'm starting to think about if I go out and do another deal and I take a bunch of money and I'm dedicated to my investors,
Yep.
every time I ink another deal, I think I'm on a 10-year plan here. Well, at 56, I'm going, where do I get off this wheel?
right.
So I am starting to take a more passive role. I am investing in other people's deals now and trying to figure out how I slide from what I've been doing for 15 years into the next level.
Let the young guys do all the work.
Yeah.
You understand that?
Yes.
All right. And then kind of the last slide on this, mentor on this was not me. It was actually Lee Carroll. He's one of the other mentors that we have here. And Diane O'Brien is part of our Lifestyles Realty group. So she was a broker on this deal.
This one and the one I just did, the lead deal.
cool.
So
And we do have the vendor program. I don't know if anybody talked about that, but Benchmark Insurance was his insurance provider on this deal. So we have contractors, general contractors that'll help do the rehab. We have insurance folks out there. We've got all kinds of people that are back there on that table in the back.
Now, we're going to open up the questions in a second, but I want one thing. Remember back when you're brand new, weren't sure about it? There might be some new people coming in this weekend. What advice would you give to the new people coming to my seminar this weekend?
can I just tell the story? I love telling the story.
Okay.
When I first joined, I thought, I'm going to circumnavigate Lifestyles. I'm going to join Houston Apartment Association, and I'm going to go learn from them. So I went to the first event they had, and this was back in 2012. And there was a happy hour somewhere in the gallery. It's not there anymore. So this is when Curtis Haynes first joined, who's mentor. Several others. Scott Tenney was there. John Boriak was there. He doing his first deal. I didn't know any of them at the time. And I heard him talking about Dell this and Dell that. And I said, oh, so you know Dell, like Lifestyles? And they go, yeah. So you Lifestyles members? And they go, yeah. So you think I should join? He goes, we're all Lifestyles members. Everyone in the room. So I was like, okay. So I joined. And it's,
So you're surrounded with millionaires. You go, well, if they're all millionaires, maybe we should listen.
yeah, I mean, there's no
Different
better.
experience.
So part of what he's alluding to there is Houston Apartment Association is the largest apartment association in the country. Inside of the Houston Apartment Association is something that was started called the IRO Group, Independent Real Estate Owner Group, and it's an educational program where you can get a certification. They also give Independent Owner of the Year awards at the Houston level, at the Texas level, at the national level, and that's what these banners are. They're either for properties, they're local, they're state, or they're national banners. If you go to an IRO event, it's pretty much all Lifestyles people. It is the largest IRO program in the country. The other apartment associations come here to figure out what they did to develop their IRO program here, and it's really because of Lifestyles.
Yes. So I did join right after that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool story.
Yeah.
Okay. So you ready to take some questions?
Let's do it.
Okay. So anybody in the room or online? David, do you have anybody online? Quick.
Not yet.
Okay. Anybody in the room? Now's your chance. And it's not about the Astros score.
What is this?
Got one back there? Okay.
Great presentation. How many of the single-family homes do you still have?
0.
Yay! Got out single family.
Yeah. I wanted to leverage as much equity as possible into multifamily. But
A lot of people, and you'll understand when I go through the seminar, you know, you don't realize it's more work to run in 10 single family homes than one 50 unit apartment because you have staff now. It's about buying back your what in the end? Your time. That's the goal. You have a question, Doug?
Oh,
I was curious, how got one easy? We got that one over there.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
yeah.
So as you're looking for passive investors, what are you looking for in the passive investors you would accept?
Great question.
Education. Passive investors that understand what we're trying to do and understand why we want to refinance so quickly or maybe sell something so quickly. The passives and Lifestyles, the investors they have a better understanding of the optimal way of doing deals. I've heard outside a lot of times investors will fight you if you try to sell it or if you try to refinance it, they just don't understand why you'd want to do that. And really, it's my philosophy is we're getting as much original capital back as possible and redeploying it as fast as possible. And that's what Lifestyles is all about.
And again, it's a total match of, do you want to be in a deal where he's going to try and return your money in 18 or 24 months so you can go to the next deal, or divide it in half and put it in 2 deals and start to diversify? Or do you have enough money? I mean, there are some people that come in this room that have a lot of money, and they're looking to put 100,000 or 200,000 in 10 deals. And they don't really want to have to worry about, because they're the CEO of their own business or whatever, they don't have to worry about finding the next deal. So they're looking for a good long-term focus. I've got people and I've got deals that meet both needs, and you've got to make sure that the person that you're dealing with and you're giving your money to, and that deal that they're doing meets your needs at that time. So talk to a lot of people and make sure that everybody's on the same wave path, because I made the mistake where I got some people that were short-term thinkers, and I put them in a long-term deal, and I realized my mistake as the lead in the deal, and I went, I missed that one.
Yeah, you got to read it. You're going to get documents on that, and I spent a whole hour on that during the weekend. I'll teach you that.
Yeah.
Let's do this one over here first.
Yeah, so I was just curious, how did you discover that the washer dryer hookups were covered up?
Oh, so one of the GCs had done a lot of work at that property that walked it with me. And he said, oh, yeah, there are a lot of washer dryer connections. So he showed them to me when we were walking. And they were in the pantry. They were covered up with plastic. So I'm like,
Bonus round.
yeah,
Level up.
love it even more.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right there.
Hey guys, awesome presentation. Thank you very much. I have a question about the financing. Why did you guys took 20 years amortization, and what was the prepayment penalty? And if you took it into consideration before?
Great question.
Good question. So loan sizes that size, loan amounts that size, tend not to get the 30-year amortizations, usually 25 or 20.
Yeah.
And if you go up into like 25 years, then you're going to have to come out of pocket more. Your LTV, your loan to value, goes up, or sorry, goes down, so you have to invest more. But yeah, typically a smaller deal will have a 20-year amortization.
Yeah, when you're talking to 20 units on down, that's where you're going to run into a shorter amortization schedule.
So it's not unusual. We have loan brokers that are also members, and they'll go out and they'll shop your deal, and they might come back with 3, 4, 5 options, and they'll have different terms on them. Then we go, all right, what's your goal here? What are you trying to do? Are we worried about the prepayment penalty on the back end? Do we want more interest only up front? Do we really care about the amortization, or you're going to be out of it before the IO runs out?
So did you have a follow-up prepayment penalty on this deal?
I think we had, within 1 year, we had a prepayment penalty.
So you had a 1-year lockout.
So you might have 5% in the first year, 0 the second. He waited over a year and a day, he sold.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah.
One more? Okay.
Have you ever considered constructing a multifamily unit?
No. I have a friend who owns a giant construction company, national. He just bought a 3D printer for his company. They're 3D printing houses now, and it's a nightmare for me to think about that. But I do know people that are doing it, and it does make sense in some regards. But
Have you
Why
been to
are
this
you-
seminar yet?
Why are you on the fence for it?
Have you come to this seminar yet?
No, not yet.
Come to this seminar, I'll explain why. I don't want to go into a 30-minute dissertation right now.
Got it.
yeah, there's a lot of reasons I'm on the
Here's
fence.
one thing. I don't even want to talk about code and all this and the squatted owl and the property and all that stuff dealing with the government. Besides that, it takes 3 years an empty property to be built, doing all that, and then material price goes up. None of that even matters. What we learn to do is we buy distressed assets where somebody already lost the money and fix it up and double our money. Would you be okay making 100% return a year? Or do you want to gamble on something brand new that might not make a return?
Or in a year, you're just paying the property taxes on the land because it's not finished in construction yet.
And there's delays because Biden's your president, inflation, all your materials went up 40%. Not that that can happen.
I feel bad for a lot of developers I see that started a couple years ago.
But yeah, we cover that during the seminar of why we pick our model a certain way. Okay?
Yeah.
What was your hold time going to be before you sold out normally? I know you said a year and a half or a year and however long. And then was it a solicited deal? Or did you guys, as far as did you solicit to sell it, or did someone come in?
What was
What was your
the
original exit strategy compared to what actually happened?
The original strategy was to sell it in a year to 2 years, 18 months.
You were on the front side of that. And how did the seller come across the property? Did you market it or did I'm sorry. Well, the buyer, yeah, the person who bought it
I
from you.
notified Diane and she found someone.
Okay, so he said, hey, I am looking to sell it, and then the lifestyles agent.
So understand what happens is we have these agents here, and as a mentor, I say, okay, we've got you qualified for $1 million property or $3 million property or whatever. We kind of construct a box that you want to fit in, and then it's now go talk to the agents, and they've got their Rolodex and they've got their top 10 buyers for $3 million properties. So then when one comes through the door, or what was this, $2.4 million properties, one comes through the door, they go through their list, say, okay, who's interested, who's ready to go today?
Yeah, now think about it. If you're brand new and you've never done this before, and you could buy off another member that they already fixed everything up and you can make money from day one, who likes that idea? So it's a great, easy turnkey deal for the new guy to grow it, and then he'll buy a bigger one later.
Yeah.
Okay,
Back.
one more.
Did you 1031 the single families for the IRO?
I've never 1031'd. I never liked personally tying up money because we own businesses. So if I needed to take capital and put it into a business or one of our locations for something, I just don't like being tied up that way. I like them though. Definitely do it if you can.
It's just tricky. The timing on them is very tricky.
Yeah, and you can make some bad decisions if you're not careful because you're kind of on a timeline. You're on a time
Especially
crunch.
multiple houses,
Yeah,
you know, trying to cross them together.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great question. That's it. We're good. All right. Hey, thank you guys for sharing.
Yep.
Really appreciate it.